All right. For those of you that are in here now, we're going to get started about 2:05, 2:03 ish. For now, we're just going to hang out, but we'll get started around then. Thank you all for coming out, those that are in here right now. So if you're just coming in, we're going to get started at about 2:05. Thank you all again for coming out. Maybe I'll play a little music. If you're just coming in, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. We're just listening to music, hanging out right now. right. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We were just listening to this Ray Charles album I have. Um, so I have a couple of announcements before I get started. We'll go right into the poems. Thank you for watching the Furious Flowers Facebook Live reading series. For those of you who don't know, the Furious Flowers Poetry Center at James Madison University is the nation's oldest academic center dedicated to Black poetry. In the 25 years since the Furious Flowers Conference and the 15 years in the center's brick and mortar existence, Furious Flowers program have reached thousands of poets, educators, students, and poetry lovers around the world, from groundbreaking media and anthologies to summer seminars for educators and decade-defining conferences. Furious Flowers has impacted literary communities on local, regional, national, and international levels by creating platforms for Black poets to encounter their readers and for their readers to experience and engage with Black literary culture in new and exciting ways. This Facebook Live event wouldn't be possible without the grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, so thank you to the NEA. My name is Tyree Daye. I'm currently in Raleigh, North Carolina on a kind of surprisingly cold day for us. I'm from a little town called Youngsville, North Carolina, which is Franklin County, northeastern North Carolina. I'm going to read from, where is it? I'm going to read from Cardinal, which came out October 2020. And then I thought I'll end with some new poems. And then we'll do a little Q&A, and I have some questions that I'm going to answer too. So if that's all good, we're going to get started. Thank you all again for listening. I'm going to start at the beginning. Field notes on leaving. Geography could not save me. The North Star is irrelevant, miles and miles above my head. I don't want constellations any nearer. I know there are whole cities all over this country, so bright you can't see the stars, the sky no wider than the heart is wide. The night President Obama was elected, we danced in a street of our small university to My President is Black. My first time on my own, I was bright and I felt like I had a father. Every one of us was flying. A blunt passed around, we got lifted. My heart to lift, all the world to explore. If there were stars, we could hold them. I've never been through airport security without being pulled to the side and searched. To know you can die anywhere doesn't feel like flying anywhere. I can't go to Canada and leave my mama here alone. If you see me dancing a two-step, I'm sending a starless code. We're escaping everywhere. I can't afford to think like Whitman, that whomever I meet on the road I shall love, and whoever beholds me shall love me. Doing the Dougie, trying to find the ocean, looking everywhere. Maybe we'll just end on some poems. So one of the first questions I wanted to answer was, how did I first hear about Furious Flowers? I discovered Furious Flowers when I want to say it was my senior year of undergrad or my first year in graduate school, when I found the poet Nikki Finney. And then I found Furious Flowers just by researching Nikki Finney. And it's kind of, and then I saw the largeness of the program. By land. I've lived on dirt roads that bent and ended at a gate of pines. The dust skipped up, didn't make my mother look like a dream I've lived. On roads that drag through America, I've paced only them to the next town. The road we kissed on is gone. Rich folks buying up all the city in which we make do. I miss when Sonny could do a wheelie all the way down Person Street, and no one would call the police because he was part of the neighborhood like the honeysuckle bush between 2 yards, and he was beautiful, not like a horse standing alone in a yellow field, but like a man is beautiful. Most of the little towns have a road nicknamed Devil's Turn, where someone's brother died on a Saturday night while Nina sang Tell Me More and More, and then some on the caddy's radio, the moon the color of the oldest cardinal. Every road isn't a way out. Some circle back like wolves. You can't get lost on them and they won't lose you. Others wait for you to run out of gas, then come alive with what your mother said would take you. Every road promises something like a father does, but when you arrive, the town is empty and you wait like a child questioning everything, the road itself, laughing like a drunk man falling into a roadside ditch. The road I'm walking now is howling and full of moon. Hopefully, it will lead to myself. Hopefully, they'll take me home. Let's see. The Mechanical Cotton Picker for Black Chicago Poets. It wasn't that they killed John Boy in front of his mama's small blue house and that no one called her Miss Bluebird anymore out of respect, though she never minded the name. It made her believe she'd fly off someday. Or that the sheriff let John Boy's body sit until even the baby stopped crying, their eyes filled with him, his body already going to marble no one would be able to lift from their sleep. It was that we could feed ourselves then by getting down on our hands and knees to pick cotton, and most knew what a body smelled like blowing down a dirt road. When Chicago reached my ear, the war was full of bodies. They sent whole train cars for us black folk. I read The Defender and waited to hide my face behind the curtains of a northbound train, and I prayed the train car would fly. The South truly don't want us to go. A Mississippi cop would catch a family disappearing behind a rainstorm and send them home, the clouds leaving 4 muddy fields at a time. I left like a season's first lover across a window, slowly like a southern sun diagonal on a workback. I wanted to carry my aunts to Chicago with me, like this obituary filled Bible, these plums I got saved, purpling in my bag. I wanted to place an ocean. I tell my uncle's ghosts, don't waste your time hunting white folks who owe you money. I try to give him my body, but he won't take it and pulls his wagon on. I began in fields near pines where we laughed and fried fish. If someone were to sing, it would grow through each ghost and be heard as geese crossing overhead. The dead know the work they have done, and if they are not careful, their hands will stay in the shape of that work. My hands haven't touched cotton or tobacco. I haven't pulled small green worms or carried them inside with me hidden in the body's doublings. I was only a child in harvested fields. When my people let the cotton sleep, there were no vacations. The fields of Roseville belonged to my kinfolk, dead and alive. And I don't know if my great grandparents ever saw the ocean or fell asleep on the beach. One of the other questions we're going to answer, um, name a poet you love that not enough people know about. I don't know how many people know about this poet, but it's a poet that I love, Destiny Hemphill, who's out of Durham, North Carolina. I think I came upon Destiny's work not too long ago, but um, I just been, I don't know, so drawn to it ever since I've read the first poem in that chapbook. So if you haven't, right, if you don't know that poet, Destiny Hemphill is such a great poet. All right. Yeah. When I left, a turkey vulture lifted from a field I still love. It was hunting season. Birds flew off at the sound of rifles we warred with brown rabbits. The vulture's head was bald and delicate, like the old men in their hats with names on them like Ford, USA, and Dodgers to cover their soft skin. Old men who stood in front of the breakfast truck stop across from the field, the butter partly melted in the middle of the grits. They also saw the vulture, knew how to scavenge, gathered like horses or stars in a junkyard looking for a rusted pearl. Those old men have died in their sleep by now, though no field could care how many will fall in it and why. I want to sit here tonight, still in love and vultureless, listening to Sade. I'm still a boy who walked through a dying sweet potato field, though our small town wouldn't recognize me now. I have a different body, a dented body, fieldless and far gone. It's kind of weird talking out there. I see you there, but I don't see you there. So I'm gonna say you there. Um, it's kind of strange talking to myself in this room, but I do it when I write, so I should be used to it. Um, Leave yourself all over. Teach me to love the way only the dead know. Sometimes I want to see you so badly. I dream myself full of the reddest wings. I do the things I promised my mother I'd never do again. You wouldn't recognize me now or the town. Three highways run through old tobacco land. I weep all night for you, will not stop no matter the bright purple festivals, the fireworks that scare everything from the sky. On my way to visit your grave, where you're buried beside your lonesome son, who walked Youngsville all day like an angel no one would give proper wings. I wanted to see you in that small town where our last name watered a crop of soybeans labored under a white man's promise. I wanted to see you in that wide graveyard as a cardinal. When I arrived, I wanted there to be jubilee, chalk red feathers darting the sky like a little blood moon. I think I'll never be through with the dead, my altar full of whole other worlds. When you no longer ghost among your children, grandchildren, when you become fully angel, a bird I let loose in my house, will you still remember us in our jerry-rigged lives? I know it's hard work being dead. I wanted to. To all poets from northeastern North Carolina, it's just getting hot, dogwoods showering our shoulders with flowers. I saw dead baby birds on the trail, so I know new life has arrived, lost in the survival of pine and ash. I'll say it plainly, we need you down here. Yesterday, my uncle put a nail through his thumb, working for the same white man he's worked for since sixth grade. Last night, his blood fell on the bathroom floor and made a star he couldn't follow. He needs to hear your poems. All right, you all. Maybe just two more from this book. What are we looking at? Okay. Maybe a few more from this book, and then we'll end with some new poems and maybe some audience questions. We'll see how it goes. Whichever way. I ran 95 north, 95 south, 40 west, 40 east, all the way to the plastic field Atlantic. I closed my eyes to every rest stop, truck stop, state flower, the broken in heads of deer lining the road like a parade crowd. Every tree on I-85 leans over me like a holy woman, and if could speak, would say again and again, the wind, like speaking with the aunt after her stroke. A mine on a freeway filled with unrecognizable bones. I died on 96 North. I was a ghost on 96 South, US 64 East, all the way to my mother's house. In every direction I was leaving, in every direction it smelled like blood, a body under a vulture filled sky, a jar of coins my uncle kept on his dresser, coins he hoped would save his life someday. On the map I'm making, he's at every turn. Every street on the south side is still black. Charcoal doesn't give you cancer, so every night is a cookout marked by smoking stars. A chalk red cardinal will always mean I love you. The dead mark the living on bone maps. It's whole cities they can enter, walk around with no reason to run. The world grows. Once the world no bigger than railroad divided Youngsville. Once I made it to South Carolina. Once we made it to South Carolina, all of us alive for the family reunion. Once 2 miles from the city limits, my uncle was pulled out of the car to have his coin filled pockets searched. Once to see the ocean, we took the back way out of town. We lived in a circle path and made do behind kerosene's heat. Once my mother, in the shape of God, pointed to the moon in a screen door. Around a card table with her brothers and sisters, and gin they trusted the squash would sprout away. Once I trusted a hand pointing north. Once I called for a wolf, and a man walked out of the night. I walked Youngsville and marked myself down on a map I was making. Once, for my birthday, my family gathered near the rusted cars in our backyard. In my happiness, the color of balloons. All right, I'm going to read this last one from the book, and then we'll end with some new poems. I wanted to recommend some books that I'm reading right now as well before I do that. Um, so this is a book that I'm reading right now. I'm sure you all will recognize these. This is that Carl Phillips book that I'm reading. Really great book. I'm teaching this book currently right now, so I'm reading it. It's a book that I'm enjoying. There's another book that I'm enjoying. Really great. Of course, right? Here's another book that I'm enjoying. Here's a book that I've read, but I have to read it again because it's just so good. This book is just teaching me so much. And then this is a book that I've read before, but I'm coming back to now. This one, right? C.A. Conrad. Okay. And this will be the last book, last poem from Cardinal, and then we'll read some new stuff, and then maybe you all have some questions, maybe not. From which I flew. Only together, holding their hands in silence, can I see what a field has done to my mother, aunts, and uncles. The land around my grandmother's old tin roof has changed. I doubt she recognized it from above. How many blackbirds does it take to lift a house? I'll bring my living, you wake your dead. We have nowhere to go, but we're leaving anyhow, by many ways. When they ask why you want to fly, blackbird, say, I want to leave the South because it killed the first man I loved, and so much more killing. Say my son's name. His death was the first thing to break me in and fly me through town. If grief has a body, it wears its Dodgers cap and still walks to the corner store to buy lottery tickets and Budweiser 40s. I don't like what I have to be here to be. All the blackbirds with nowhere to go keep leaving. All right, and then I'll end with some new poems, you all. Thank you again for listening. What the Angels Eat. As children, we ate watermelons over trash bags in my aunt's backyard, filled with so many black and blue-eyed crows. It stopped being an omen, and they eat what fell to the ground, and our skin stayed on. We get yelled at for spitting seeds at each other, saliva thick with red. We made a war from the sweetest things. The flies made a mess of our dancing. The flies made a dance in our messes. Our mothers thank God it was not the blood feared. A watermelon's vine would wrap itself around you if you fell asleep under them watching meteors. Melons make magic under midnight moons. I once grew watermelons that flowers could sing if I sat there singing the way my aunts break out into song. I mean beautiful. Like that, the flowers would start moving. I'm so free, I make a river on both sides of my mouth, a fruit full of kinship. It once grew wild and bitter in the Kalahari Desert, the grandmother of all the watermelons, the first water. My grandmother share a bowl every Sunday and drip juice on the floor, but never stain a soul, the only fruit the dead can eat. The first. We make the landlords laugh with our black southern black ways. We know to say nothing of the one-legged spirit balancing on their shoulders. When the landlords speak, we look into the spirit's face to see if they are telling the truth. If the spirit gives a one-tooth grin, or the spirit either gives a one-tooth grin or its backwards head turns the other way to scowl. The little children sing too, run when their newly washed Buicks curve the corners. The chickens go mad, beating their heads to the ground. The blackbirds start looking for sickly-looking crows. Behind their mamas, the children stand out, looking at the thing. Their mamas scatter cayenne pepper around the house after they leave. All right, y'all. This will be the last. Poem. Thank you again. Snaking. When I'm a deep brown snake getting my head cut off, my Uncle Boo Boo and George are alive, and I can see them there standing over me. My heroes, my mouth slowly opening and closing, my killers, the shovel between my head and tail. When I'm a dead snake, I dream of a field covered in dog bones and mice, and I am long and I am full. They cut me in half, and I am two green garden snakes making love in my mother's brown grass. In other stories, my uncles are at the corner store, and they are alive, and I have no more snakes left in me. My body can be whatever they have picked up in their hands. I am a Budweiser 40. In a brown paper bag, thick as moonlight they carry me. What am I when I'm this close to the dead come back? I know it might not rain for years if I look into their eyes. When they turn me up, they kiss my neck. And though I know their lives, I play along. I laugh a little in dead men's arms. All right, you all. I got to read a little more stuff. I just want to make sure I cover everything. I recommended some books. So so thank you all so much for tuning in to the Furious Flowers Facebook Live Reading Series. Thank you again to the National Endowment of the Arts for supporting the series. I hope you enjoy the reading. Tune in right here for the next Facebook Live reading featuring Nathan John on April 9th at 2 p.m. For information and other programs, you can visit the Furious Flowers social media page. Maybe I'll stop and if there's some questions. Well, people are talking in here. Okay. I did not go down at all. Look at this chat. Let me see. So if you all have any questions, you can put them in there. If not, I'm gonna go about my Friday. What let's say? Can you give me the last name? Oh, okay. Here's someone was sharing the Destiny's poem. Is it the book? Oh, it's the chapbook. Really great chapbook. Such a great poet. Um, if it's okay, Lauren, please text me if this is not okay. Wait, have you already been texting me? Okay, so maybe not. Okay, maybe I'll read some more poems then. That's cool. I have more. I have some more new stuff that I wanted to read, but I kind of got a little scared, but that's okay. I'm gonna do it anyways. Between my gone people, there are questions. Okay, let's see. I don't. Okay, here we go. Here's one. Talk about the use of death as a very central theme. Yeah. I've always, I not always, but I don't know. Once it was revealed, at least through my first book, River Hymns, I have an obsession with death because, well, many reasons. I think just the family I grew up in, death was never something that was hidden from me, right? Very early, right? I was told what death was, right, and just kind of how to get through that, and also my uncle Boo Boo, who I write about a lot, and my grandmother passed away when I was very young, and so they died when I was a child, and so my my whole perspective of them is like through a child's eyes, and so they become my obsession because like, I'm so interested in them as people and all these stories I heard about them. I don't know, and I think I'm obsessed with death because to be honest, I'm completely afraid of it, right? Afraid to die, afraid of family members passing away, right? And so I write about it. And same reason I write about birds. I'm terrified of birds. That's mainly because of the superstitions that I grew up around, just with birds. Um, let's see. There apparently are more questions. I don't necessarily see them. So, my cousins in here. Um, uh, Lisa, my cousin Lisa is in here. That was Destiny Hempill. I'll share it. I'll send you a message on the Facebook if you want me to. I don't necessarily see these other questions you all. Oh, here we go. I noticed some music as I entered the poem today. The poem, is there a significant relationship between music and your work? Yes. So I turn to music really anytime I'm writing, right? So I'll show y'all my junky room here. Yeah, here's a little record player, right? And records um, I'm usually playing when I'm writing. For me, I turn to music when I'm trying to capture the tone in a poem, right? So say I want that tone of like a Prince tone in my poem, right? I'll go to Prince. And I'm like, what word choice could I use to have, right? What word choice will capture this tone? What is Prince's tone? Which I think is like a worried sexiness. That's how I describe Prince's tone. So how could I capture that tone in my poems? I also think about, right, Nina Simone's work, which I think is like the best at tone, right? Um, Tone is everything. I think now I'm trying to get to the point where I'm trying to find a new tone in my work, or trying to maybe complicate the tone I already have. But yeah, that's how I use music. I use music to capture the tone in my poems. Um, all right, y'all. What time is it? All right, I'm gonna read some more poems if that's cool. Let me. Sorry. Oh, the significance of birds in my poems. Um, yeah, so I'm obsessed with birds because I grew up in a. I don't call them. I don't want to call them superstition, but I will call them beliefs around birds. So I definitely grew up um, where I'm from. We didn't call cardinals, right? They're called red birds, and I grew up blowing kisses at red birds. Um, and so that's a superstition, but also grew up a superstition that if a belief that if a bird flew into your house and you let that bird out, right, that someone in your family was going to die, right. And so I remember a bird flew in our house in Youngsville, right, and a couple of days later, I think I write about this in a poem, and a couple of days later, right, my grandmother dies. um and so I already had this strange relationship with birds, but then that happened, right. And I'm a child and I believe these things. I still do. And so, and other beliefs are, right, not touching feathers you found on the ground, all kind of things. But mostly these beliefs are for survival. Um, when I was first writing Cardinal, I didn't know it was going to be about all these birds are going to start showing up. I wanted to write a poem about dealing with living outside of North Carolina at the time, but then really, all these birds started showing up. Here's another question. Land comes up in many of your poems. As a Black Southerner, what's the nature of the relationship to the land, and how does it inform your work? Yeah, I turn to the land a lot in my poems. That is true. For me, I use the land just like I would use birds to make meaning. For me, I believe it is my belief that God sends us images through nature, right, for us to try to use to make meaning from our lives, right, or to see some larger connection to the universe. And so, being from the South, right, and being sent outside, right, 8 o'clock in the morning, right, get your ass outside. Oh, excuse me, get outside. Um, and so, right, we spend time just I don't want to say learning to love nature, but learning to deal with, right, and manage. And so I think that happens in the work. I'm in love with it, with nature, but I also know it's danger, right? I know it can hurt me if it wanted to, and that's the way I try to address it in the work. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of this, you all. So I'm just gonna read some more poems. All right, cool. Uh, Here's some more stuff. Then I'll let y'all do what y'all do on Fridays. Between my gone people and me, my grandmother and her body is free. Her body is the blue earth we've dug holes in, but she filled me with old gods so I can bring her back. I seek guidance from the sun. This earth but in my ancestors' tongue. This earth full of ravens' calls. This earth but my mama's hurt is a spindle to her love. The valley full of uncle bones. How recycle into the living are the dead's clothes by now? I mean, whose uncle's shirt is this? This earth, but I have all your things. Do you stand up in me, or are you where my body needs your hands? I want you to be the angel that terrifies me. I want you to know all the ways I'm dying. What's rounder than the moon, the wild dog sleeping on your grave seas tonight? You are the only human I will trust. What is it to be lonely only for the dead? Blessed be you. I carry this fear for the living like a drunk uncle through a tobacco field that shushes as it sways. I'm a pallet on the floor for you to lie down on. Don't worry about remaking me in the morning. Go out and be your best dead self. I do all the things do all the things you wanted to do without these bones holding the body back. This wound, same as my grandmother, same as her mother, and a valley of women before them. No one taught my mother, so no one taught me. Once, when I saw my once, when I was my grandmother's house dress, I made a mercy in the flowers. My dead walked down the middle of the street. I woke up on my great great grandmother's back, riding this 400 years into this American experiment. I will agree with the pines tonight. The darkness is a slow unrolling. Even the brightest stars feel unholy. All right. Just want to make sure I'm not skipping anything. Yeah. So I think I guess talk about the otherworldliness in my poems. I don't. I don't know. I don't think about it as other like when I think about ghosts and all these other things. That's very much a part of how I grew up, and so it's real to me, right? And it's not separate. Um, it's it's very much real and it's very much a part of my life. And so I don't see ghosts as unreal, right? I have a picture of my grandmother and my mother here. And so like this that's like a I don't know, I don't like I believe that they're all right here with me and I don't so I'm able to I guess move into these what you would call other worlds, but for me I'm still right, I'm still in North Carolina just but my ghosts are still here, right? I hope that answers your question. Oh, okay. All right, we're getting there. Um, Maybe I'll read another poem that kind of goes off that too. Hmm. Okay, proofreader. Between Duke and Elizabeth is old man Dallas. All three were known as singers and gamblers and cooked your meat right off the bone. Near old man Dallas's left knee, Mr. Brooks, who carved miniature people out of branches broken loose by wind and scared the children because he told them the little men and women had spirits, and baby Claire swears she saw one move. At the center, Hattie, who was building a temple in her backyard, she had one room of four. On the door of that room read Bridge to the Other Side. Helen was known to see angels and what old folks called the ether, and was quoted as saying the church's chimes seemed to say, oh baby, and ended too soon, the way fire and desire ends, and you wish there was a little more. And there was Miss B, who became enchanted with renaming things she thought had the wrong names. She would go missing to be found in the wood, holding the rack of a doe, saying, Mama. I try to stay true to the pronunciation of names like Buck, Miss Lou, and Uncle CG when I go looking for them. My mama keeps telling me when they call, I don't have to go, but I turn up like a weed in the collards. I hold my cell phone flashlight like a ghost lantern. I steer my body through the dark churchyard, slow as my mama drove her blue Toyota down our brown street. All right, I think I got some more questions. A distinction between mourning and grief. I actually started trying to write a poem about wanting to get down in grief. Like, I don't remember. I think I was reading about something about this idea of like how death teaches us that we are alive. I don't know what the distinction between mourning and grief. That's a difficult question for me. I don't know. I feel like my poems are attempting to do both, or maybe to get around grief. I don't necessarily know. I can't necessarily. It's something for me to think about some more. Um, all right, I'm gonna read one more poem, and I'm gonna say my goodbyes. This is a rough poem, but maybe I could try it out on y'all. Happy birthday to ya, Miss Lou. We share the same birthday, as you know. I've always been a child who needed to state things. When it rained, I pointed out the window and said it was raining. Afraid to read the date you were born, I have not looked up your obituary. And away at college when you died, I did not go to your funeral. But I want to say happy birthday to you today, wanting to be home again. I looked up our little town and found our old stumping ground on Google Street View. I wanted to see your ghost in the window of your old brick house. I know someone in our hand raised to Jesus town would say that's of the devil, but God knows my heart. In your yard on my computer screen, there were 12 children bikes lined up close to the road. Where did they come from? I don't remember you having any children. And Miss Lou, there was one of those Fisher Price cars with the red doors and yellow roof like I used to have. Could that car be mine? Well, that was 20 years ago. More than that. You know, I've always loved magic. And didn't you have a little dog named Peach who believed his little legs were oceans when they were barely rivers? And didn't Peach, when anyone got near your porch, flood the yard? And Miss Lou, didn't you call the ocean back? Thank you all.